Recently, I was feeling a bit rusty in my Bloodborne skills, and I figured what better way to get back into the groove of things than doing a skill-only run in Bloodborne. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. The first and most obvious rule is skill only because, as Dex and skill lovers know, it's the only stat that matters. Rule number 2, I cannot use the same weapon twice in a row. I do this to keep things interesting and to force myself to use as many skill weapons as possible, since there are only so many skill weapons in the game and most of the weapons will be used more than once. I did my best to give them all equal turns. Rule number 3, no guns. Simply because pairing breaks the game. I would like to give Lady Maria a chance to spank me than the other way around. And lastly, I must beat every boss in the game. With that said, let's get the run started. Starting off, I named my character Ezio because there is no better skilled assassin and lady killer than Ezio Auditore da Finezza. For the class, I went with the Miliquest, interestingly enough. With the 12 strength and 9 blood tinge, this gives me the most weapon options. Sadly, weapons like the Rider Palash or Shikage will not be usable due to their high blood tinge requirements. Once done making the sexy assassin character alive, I test my skills against a werewolf who I strategically missed so that I could have the opportunity to backstab him. 100% planned and not sheer luck. After fondling a wolf's rectum, I pick up my starting weapon and the most beloved skill weapon in the game, the threaded cane. Only the most skilled and most pimpin' players use the cane. With my new pimpin' slapping tool in hand, I beeline it through the street straight to the Claire Beast because fuck it, why not? As stated at the beginning of the video, I was a bit rusty and it had been a minute since I had used the cane, so it took me a second to remember how to use it properly. But once remembering how good the R2 was for head breaks, I pimp slapped the shit out of the Claire Beast, and it only took 3 slaps to put the big boy in his place. With the Claire Beast being slapped to death, I headed back to the Hunter's Dream, popped some blood echoes, sold my gun, and used those said echoes to level my skill to 16. Once done leveling, I head back to the streets to pick up my next skill weapon, the Saw Spear, the better and more skilled brother of the Saw Cleaver. I then come across the most skilled and most loved character in all of Bloodborne, Elaine the Crow, who I immediately picked a fight with because there can only be one good-looking hunter and it's going to be me. Of course, being the better hunter, I led my prey off a ledge for her to survive. Shit. Well, time to do what Ezio does best. Air assassination! Oh, you gotta be fucking with me. I mean, all going to plan. I see, I killed her by confusing her. 100% skill. After taking out the most beloved character in the game and taking her badge, I pick up a new wardrobe, level my skill to 19, and upgrade my Saw Spear to +2 with all the shards I collected along the way. With all that done, it's time for the furry man himself, Gascoigne. So I went with the Saw Spear to redeem myself from my last run when I was using the Saw Cleaver, and with this being a skill-only run, I figured I should try to backstab Gascoigne to death, which I skillfully failed at. Not going to lie, I felt a bit cheated on this one right here, but I'm happy to say I finally landed one near the end, almost killing Gascoigne before he could transform, which would have been really cool, but the game told me to suck it, so it is what it is. After tickling Gascoigne's furry butthole, I grabbed the best outfit in the game, made my way to Old Yharnam, collected some shards, nabbed me my next skill weapon, the Rifle Spear, and said fuck it and beelined it straight for the Bloodstar Beast because I don't need second levels or upgrades. For the Bloodstar Beast, I of course went with the Rifle Spear because it was my only option. I liked the weapon, but it wouldn't normally be my weapon of choice for this fight. Either way, with the help from some Feast Blood pellets that I picked up along the way, I did some decent damage to the Flappy Lip Lady. Especially when I got backstabs off, or should I say when the game let me have a backstab, because 3 times in a row I got the backstab off, but the game wouldn't give me the damn visceral. Definitely one of the drawbacks of Bloodborne, it's really easy to miss viscerals by being slightly off. Besides those 3 hiccups, I had no issue shoving my hand up her rectum. With Flappy Lips put down, I finally used all of those echoes to get my skill to 26. After leveling, I pick up some doll clothes in the abandoned old workshop that I will not sell just yet. I then pick up some upgrade materials and some gemstones, to then do some grueling farming for Echo since the Blades of Mercy cost 40k, not to be confused with Warhammer 40k, which I really want to get into, but my god is it intimidating. After obtaining the Blades of Mercy, I put on a new disguise and infiltrate the Witches of Himwick. The reason I went with the Blades of Mercy was for its fast charge R2, and it will help massively speed up this boring fight, which 99% of y'all have already heard me state multiple times, and it will always be true. Once done slapping some granny booty like the dirty hoe that Ezio is, I use that sinner's money to level my skill to 30 and upgrade my threaded cane to +6. Sadly, at this moment, there are no other skill weapons I can obtain before the next boss fight, but before taking on Amelia, I skip on over to Yargul Unseen Village to pick up the Moon Rune to help with getting more echoes. With that done and properly dressed for the fight, it's time to pimp slap a bitch. Now, I'm technically correct by definition, so don't be mad at me, be mad at whoever came up with the word for a female dog. As stated a second ago, I went with the threaded cane for this fight, and to all of those who thought the threaded cane wasn't any good, I literally stunlock Amelia with its whip R2. Also, what's great about the whip form is that it bumps the skill grade of the weapon up 1, so when I do visceral damage with it, it does more damage, but it has to be in its whip form for this perk. With Amelia defeated, that gives me access to the Hunter's Nightmare where I can get Simon's bow blade by killing Simon when you first encounter him, because otherwise I would have to defeat 3 bosses to get it, and this is much easier. And lastly, the Beast Hunter safe, which I decided to use the Beast Hunter safe for my next fight without upgrading it because I was being lazy at the time. And as you can see, being lazy has its consequences. Now, a smart individual would just go upgrade the weapon, but I took this as Paul calling me a little bitch, and I was not going to stand for that. So I threw myself at him with my unupgraded weapon 7 times to beat him, hard-headedly, but more importantly, skillfully at the same time. After showing how much of a smart cookie I can be, I sold the doll clothes and leveled my skill to 41. I then used the few brain cells I have to upgrade the rest of the weapon to +3 so that I could pick up a tonsil stone, a triangle gem, and a Canehurst letter to take on Amygdala, which I only needed one of those 3 things to do so. For Amygdala, I went with Simon's bow blade for the bow. With being able to snipe Amygdala's head from a distance, it led to easy viscerals, and I of course made sure to finish the big fella off with a charged bow shot. It would just be wrong to not at least kill one boss with the bow part. With Amygdala dealt with, I of course did the obvious of going to Canehurst, collecting all the chunks for upgrading, and grabbing goodies to sell to get my saw spear to +8 to take on Ludwig. You know, the usual playthrough route. Now, you might be wondering, why would I take on the DLC boss this early? Well, I wanted to fight him with a bit of low damage to help me learn his second phase better. For those of you who do not know, I am working on beating Bloodborne using nothing, and I am currently stuck on Ludwig. I know his first phase really well, but I don't really know how to not get hit in his second phase besides just straight DPSing him down. So I figured this was the best way for me to learn his second phase instead of overly suffering on that run. Which I'm happy to say, I think I found a way to make his second phase easier. I found if I lock onto him and just dodge to the left, I could avoid the majority of his attacks. The tricky part is, after you visceral him, his moveset changes a bit. Whereas before getting him to a quarter of health, after he did his 3-sword slam, he would just stand there for a second to get easy hits in. But after getting his health low, he will always follow up with a charged diagonal attack, which I had no issues letting him smack me with. I came super close a couple of times beating him, but I was on a time schedule for this run since I was trying to get it done before traveling for the Christmas holidays. So after my 30th death, I called it quits since I couldn't spend any more time on it. With that bitter disappointment, I headed over to the Forbidden Woods to take on the Shadows of Yharnam. For this lovely group, I went with the Blades of Mercy. My thought process for this fight is that I would be able to DPS them down really quickly, which I wasn't 100% wrong, but with the blades only being at +4, I didn't do much damage. I didn't have any issues killing the fire guy, it was more of Tweedledee and Tweedledum who gave me issues. Which I came very close to running out of vials, but for some reason I decided to just pressure the sword guy while running in a circle, and funny enough was able to dodge both candle guy and sword guy's attacks to kill sword guy to then bully candle guy. I would like to think this was some kind of ultra instinct shit and not sheer dumb luck, but we all know it was dumb luck. With that done, I used the Yharnam Boy's Echoes to get my skill to 46, and equipped the rifle spear to take on Rom, the vacuous spider. I know most of y'all are probably thinking I should have used the rifle spear for the Shadows of Yharnam and not for Rom, since I could have used the gun to parry them for an easy win. Y'all are not wrong, but I figured the rifle spear was the better option for Rom with it having decent range with his thrust attacks, and we all know Rom is weak to thrusting. Sadly, her children were not too happy about me thrusting their mother. So, after dying 2 times to them, I decided to kill them all off so they couldn't get in my way, and with the little shits out of the way, Ezio got to have a field day with Rom. After becoming Stepfather of the Year, I collected the Upper Cathedral Key and killed the Beast Hunter for the level 1 Claw rune. With having the Upper Cathedral Key, I kicked down the doors so that I can grab the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge, so that I can buy twin shards to finally upgrade the rest of my weapons to +6. While doing some chores, I killed Gilbert for the level 2 Claw rune. Going to do big boy damage now with having both runes. I then headed back to the Hunter's Dream to level my skill to 51, and with that, I figured it was time for me to have a rematch with Ludwig. With having Beast Blood pellets in the runes, it felt a bit unfair for Ludwig. I honestly felt like I was just straight bullying him, especially in the second phase. I was able to break him twice in a row before he could do anything. It's kind of crazy how much more damage you can do with Beast Blood pellets. This kind of just shows how overpowered they are. But with that, the mighty Ludwig went down. So the reason I came back here to kill Ludwig is so that I could do a dupe glitch with the little beast guys in the research hall. If you had watched my previous video, you would have known I ran into an issue of running low on chunks, and the game only gives you 1 enemy to farm them and they take forever to drop chunks. So instead of wasting time grinding, I decided to just spend 15 minutes running back and forth in this area to get chunks. When running from the research hall to the Nightmare Church, it will respawn the enemies in the research hall. When doing this after killing the little beast and not picking up the item, it will dupe the item every time you come back and kill them. So I did this to the point of being able to have all my weapons to +7. I could have farmed longer, but I felt this was fair enough. With all that jargon done with, it was time for the One Reborn, and since I was trying to make up for lost time, thanks to Ludwig, I used the freshly upgraded Beast Hunter safe with bolt paper and pellets to go straight to attacking the One Reborn. I just made sure to weave in and out a bit to dodge the fireballs, but I had no issues killing the abomination while his Karen mothers yelled at me from afar. Once dealing with an undisciplined child, I leveled my skill to 59 and decided it was time for the Blue Man group. For the Celestial Emissaries, I went with Simon's Bow Blade. Not the most likely weapon to use for this fight, but I figured once I dealt with the first phase, I could use the bow to stay back and snipe the main blue man to death. And sure enough, it worked out really well. Looks like the range builds are just as broken in Bloodborne as they are in PoE 2. After sniping the leader of the Blue Man group, I rushed over to Ebritus, the thick bitch. And I am 100% using it in a mean way right here. I went with the Threaded Cane for this fight since the cane does righteousness damage and Ebritus is weak to thrusting. Unfortunately for me, I would get carried away with all the thrusting, leading me to miss the head break, which led to me dying. I wish I could say I got her on the next try, but she had to remind me why I call her the thick bitch. On the 3rd try, I was finally smart and stopped thrusting for a second so I could slap her face for a bit to break it so I could pimp slap it real good. The only part that sucks is that the Beast Blood pellet ran out right when I was starting the Visceral, so I didn't get the benefit from the buildup and had to finish her off the old-fashioned way. With the thick bitch pimp slapped to death, I used my assassin skills to sneak past the guards and the Nightmare of Menace. Just ignore that guard with the glowing eyes. Successfully infiltrating the enemy's base, it is time for Mikolash. For Mikolash, I went with the trusty Blades of Mercy, once again using these bad boys for their insanely fast charge R2 for backstabs. After dealing with his first phase, I then tricked Mikolash to take a left so I could speed past him and skip all that bullshit. Tragically, Mikolash did better this phase in stopping me from tapping that behind. But I'm used to them playing hard to get, so I just kept pressuring that bad boy until I got that booty like the assassin pirate that I am. I never played Black Flag, so I'm just guessing it's the same main character from the first 2 games. After getting that booty full of treasure, I nabbed a Damp Blood gem and leveled my skill to 63. With that done, it is time for Murgo's Wet Nurse. As you can tell, I went with the Rifle Spear. I have no reason why I picked it besides it was its turn. I was doing good on my first attempt with it until I completely forgot that her wind-up slash can sometimes be a 3 combo. I'll be honest, it caught me off guard, but I should have known better. It happens to the best of us. The second round went a lot smoother. Honestly, the Rifle Spear did great for this fight since its untricked form just does thrust attacks and made it extremely easy to just poke her from behind without getting nipped by her sporadic claws. And I'm happy to say I had no issues dodging her nightmare attack. See, I have some skill. Now, I could have killed her by poking her to death, but I wanted at least 1 kill with the gun, so I just shot a few rounds at her until she went down. With the old girl put down, I leveled my skill to 67 and popped all 3 umbilical cords so that I could take on Gurman, the first hunter. The reason I am taking him on right now is so that I can get his badge for the Burial Blade. After I beat him, I can just exit the game and come back later to fight Moon Presence. So for this fight, I went with the trusty old Saw Spear for its decent damage and its almighty trick attack. Which I wish I could say led to me first trying Gurman, but of course I found a way to mess that up. In all fairness, that attack can be really hard to dodge sometimes. On the second go around, I thought I timed the dodge right, but the motherfucker warped right on top of me, literally. The only thing I can figure is I dodged too soon, so it allowed the AI to just go to my exact location. Normally, he just flies right past me, but I usually am not locked on, so that also could be a factor. Anyways, besides that nerd talk, the third round went swimmingly. I just made sure to keep pressure on him to keep him in his untricked form for some easy side steps which led to easy hits to lead to an easy victory. Once Moon Mommy appeared, I made a strategic retreat. Just you wait, Moon Mommy, I'll be back to pimp slap you. Once back in the Hunter's Dream non-boss area, I purchased the Burial Blade, upgraded it, and head over to Canehurst to take on Martyr Ligarius. I do not think I need to explain why I'm using the Burial Blades for this fight. So starting off, I was having a bit of a rough time and couldn't figure out why my damage was so low, so I quickly opened the menu to find out I forgot to put gems on the weapon. This might be a skill run, but I have skill issues. I could have ran away and go equip the gems, but I figured I would give it the old college try, and just like college, it kicked my ass. I was able to get him below half health thanks to backstabs. The unfortunate part was that he decided to start spamming his flying dagger attack, which made me run out of vials and put me below half health. The only way I was going to win at this point is if he would for some reason does 2 jump attacks back to back. Oh, well, there's one, but he won't. Oh, pure skill, no luck. If you need me, I'll be at the casinos. After a little bit of gambling, I used my assassin skills once again to sneak past the worst area in the game to die to a rat. It's always the rats that end up taking out the assassins, those little shits. Once at the top, it was time to take on the Living Failures, but this time with my bare fist. If you didn't know, the fists have an S scaling in skill, so that makes them a skill weapon. I chose to do this to help get some practice in and learn how to beat them this way for the Bloodborne Nothing run. Overall, wasn't that bad fighting them with bare fist. More tedious than hard, in all honesty. Really, the only good opening was when one of them was charging their missile attack. You just had to hope another one wasn't nearby to slap you to death. I guess that's just karma from all the pimp slaps I dealt this run. Once I got them to half health, it got even easier because all I had to do now was wait for them to do the meteor attack and I could get easy backstabs. Sometimes I could even get 2 of them in one meteor summons. With that, it only took me 3 tries to beat the 4 bastards with my bare fist. After that smackdown, I leveled my skill to 71. Finally visited Spider Patches for the level 2 anti-clockwise rune, and replaced the claw runes with both anti-clockwise runes and equipped the guidance runes for more rally. With Lady Maria up next, I have no need for viscerals. Speaking of Lady Maria, I decided to go with Simon's Bow Blade, which I ended up regretting. Not because Simon's Bow Blade is a bad choice, it's more that I should have used the Burial Blade. I was so focused on making sure I rotated as evenly as possible, I forgot that I had only used it once so far. Now, I do think it would have done better than the Burial Blade, just because it's a bit faster of a weapon, and Simon's Bow Blade's bow form just wasn't very useful for Lady Maria, which did lead to me dying twice, sadly. I was hoping for a first try, but I did say at the beginning that I wanted to give Lady Maria a chance to spank me, and she sure did take advantage of that. Hell, even on the 3rd attempt on her 3rd phase, she smacked me around a good bit that I thought for a second that I was going to lose this round, but I kept my composure and made sure to take advantage of her charge attacks to lead me to victory. Just ignored the low vial amount. With Lady Maria defeated, I went back to the research hall to grab the underground cell key and fought the hunter in the underground cell to acquire the church pick in a fair and very resourceful way. Now having the church pick, I upgraded to +7 to take on Lawrence, the first Vicar. I chose to use the church pick for this fight since it has the unique ability Beast Hunter, which is basically serrated damage but affects more enemies. And Lawrence knew this somehow, so he backhanded the shit out of me. Karma strikes once again. My main focus for the first phase was to just stay behind his left leg to bait out his fall attack, but for some reason he kept wanting to just slam his fist down, so I would just do a trick attack combo to deal as much damage as possible in that short window. Sadly, on my first time getting him to his second phase, I missed time to roll and got squashed by Lawrence. I can't be mad, that one was definitely on me. The 3rd round, I just repeated the same steps, but this time not getting hit by his slam attack. Now in phase 2, I stayed in the church pick's trick form to help with keeping a safe distance when attacking, and to help hit him when he turns his back. For some reason, weapons with short range will just go through his back, not dealing damage. I guess his hitbox just doesn't go that far back. But with those simple steps, the furry pup went down. With Lawrence dead, it's time to get the Rakuyo, the most pain in the ass weapon to get in the game. So I decided to be a bit smart and cheese the shark bastards. To do the cheese, just get the shark with the anchor to start walking around. You can do this by going to the area or hitting him with a throwing knife. Once he is walking around, go where the winter lanterns are, kill them, and then use the threaded cane's whip form to whip the sharks to death from the ledge. Just be careful, you can get hit. But after a few swipes from my whip, I kill both sharks for the Rakuyo, which I of course upgraded it to +7. Now, with Orphan being the actual final boss of this run, and with me going to backstab him to death, I decided to just have some fun with it and get my skill to 99. If you do not know, your skill level is one of the 3 factors that affect your visceral damage, and is the main reason why I focus on dealing visceral damage this entire run. Honestly, makes the stat kinda busted in comparison to the others. Either way, I finished leveling up and re-equipped the claw runes to take on Orphan. I made sure to bring Beast Blood pellets because this helps with visceral damage tremendously. As you can see, I dealt 4,396 with the beast meter barely filled, whereas near the end of the fight without the pellets, I only did 2,943. Not going to lie, I really wish I had used the pellets because it would have left Orphan with only a sliver of health left. It's also crazy to think this is without the level 3 claw rune. I can only imagine how much damage it would do with all 3 runes and a beast meter filled all the way out. Either way, I had fun backstabbing Orphan to death. It's always satisfying seeing massive chunks of HP fly off his health bar. With Orphan defeated, that only leaves me with Moon Presence, which I decided to finish off this run with a weapon that started it all off, the Threaded Cane. I got this bad boy to +10 and went to town with its whip R2 to break Moon Presence's face, to slap the living shit out of it. We'll just ignore the 2 deaths it took to get this to happen, but after that visceral, I just went full pimp on her ass and whipped it real good. No better way to end a skill run than slapping some moon mommy booty. And with that, the run comes to an end. I think this run just shows how broken skill is in this game. With it buffing visceral damage, it's probably the most powerful stat, especially when you can easily parry or break most bosses for visceral opportunities. It's also crazy that I only use the game's base gems. I could only imagine how much more damage I would have done if I had farmed the Winter Lanterns. But with that said, I would like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Akane Gaming. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.